I am here to represent the national government in the launch of the strategic plan for the KEFIS, which is the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service. By its very name, KEFIS is supposed to do inspection of plant and products in order to ensure that it meets the requirements of the market. So it's about plant health, and so what they do is certification, testing and inspection. But what is important is that from the Ministry of Trade, we want to inform Kenyans that we're working very hard to address the imbalance in our trade. We have now a national trade policy that has been developed and approved by Cabinet in order to address that imbalance. The imbalance has been that imports are now 3 times more than exports. And the desire of the Cabinet through that national trade policy is to see that we up the game on our exports, because we are members of WTO and we believe in following the rules of international trade, which means we cannot restrict imports when they qualify to come to our market, because we also need to access that other market. So what we are doing then is, through our manufacturing strategy, is to try and attract investments and produce products that are being imported. And that way, you are import substituting without necessarily bringing in any restrictions on imports. So it's a way we are attracting that, but we're also attracting investments in order to be invested in our sectors and then produce not only for the local market, but for the international market. Of the 600 billion worth of goods that we export, only 10 countries account for 70% of that. So we want to diversify the markets. So what we have done in the recent past, you have seen, led by none other than His Excellency the President and his deputy and ministers for foreign affairs and others, we've been aggressively going out to the markets to make sure we secure more markets. So US, we have duty-free, quota-free under AGOA. The challenge with the US is to make sure we meet the stringent requirements. And those requirements are very stringent. The Americans cannot allow certain products from Kenya if they don't meet the requirements of that market. So what then we are doing is to work backwards to make sure that through KEFIS and other institutions, our producers are able to produce products not only of good quality, but also of adequate amounts. And this is what we are doing, because while we talk to them to understand, to have a special arrangements with KEFIS where they recognize each other's procedures, we don't have a choice but to make sure we meet that market. And I think a lot is happening, especially through the direct flight to the US. We have seen now more of some of our fresh produce going to the US market. The other market is Europe. We have seen a little bit of stringent requirements, especially in that market. More of our products now are being subjected to more inspection. And it's because they have seen traces of some of the products which or this, diseases or whatever that are in levels which cannot be accepted in that market. So they have asked us to up the game, and we're working. We now have a program called MACA program, which is supported, working with UNIDO to try and make sure that we work with specific counties, I think 12 of them, including Uasin Gishu, that we want to make sure we take through the farmers and ensure that we meet that market, so that all our products that go to Europe meet the requirements. The other one is Australia. Australia has come up with a new regulation that requires our flowers to be fumigated on source. You cannot be allowed to export to that market unless you have fumigation. Unless you have done the fumigation. So who should do fumigation? I think the private sector is struggling a lot. They wanted to do it, but they're having challenges, because if you want to invest in it, you want to be guaranteed that there will be some market for you and that you will have people who will use the customers who will use the facility. So we are trying to work now with KEFIS and others, and this is why today I am championing for more resource allocation to KEFIS, for more facilities, because what they have here, the labs are few, and they cannot cope with the requirements that we need. So we need to see KEFIS in all the counties, and if we can start with only even the first 8, using the economic blocks, where like Norep in Uasin Gishu, we have in Eldoret, then in Nakuru we have another one, we have in Lake Region, Kisumu. If we have those and make sure they are of standard, and then we make sure we provide enough money to their staff we are capable of training them. I think then farmers can be able to be organized through cooperatives, and they should then be able to produce. Their farms can be declared as disease-free zones or certified by KFIS, and going straight to the international market. Don't want to be asked also to lower, because they're already enjoying our market a lot. So we were just requesting, and that is something that takes time, but we hope that that can be addressed. China, India is the same. We've discussed, we are going to sign SPS, and generally the whole of Asia, we are going and market by market, and ensuring we have market requirements. Then we work backwards. We talk to the KFIs and national government and county governments. Then they know the requirements, and we start producing. I can tell you, with following the story of horticulture sector last year, where horticulture sector grew by 33%, it is not impossible to sustain a growth of 25%.
First, let's understand that one, although agriculture was devolved, we should ask ourselves whether the resources that were in agriculture were devolved with a function. And it is your role as me to go and do your research. How much money used to go to Ministry of Agriculture before devolution? How much money is still going to Ministry of Agriculture after devolution? If you answer that, then you'll understand whether resources follow function. That notwithstanding, as county governments, we are allocating resources to our departments of agriculture. The challenge we have, and that is why we need extension service, is most of the time when we go for public participation, farmers would want to go for infrastructural development, because people don't really look at the soft issues of training as a means of enhancing productivity. The moment you tell them we want to employ, they say, munaongeza mishahara. But you see, if we have shortage of extension officers, we have no choice. We have to employ. There must be a recurrent expenditure to that. But our argument should be link the recurrent expenditure to productivity. Look at where the recurrent expenditure is occurring. Is it at the center where it is going to increase productivity, or at a consumption center? And I think that is what needs to come out very clearly. But as county governments, we want to assure you, if you put our money together that we put in agriculture, probably is more than what national government is putting on PS. And you're going to see how we have discussed. I'm going to do, there's need for some deal of lobbying. When a chairman of KFIS, after this we need to meet for lunch and discuss how to lobby parliament. Because sometimes parliament just decides to remove resources without getting back to the ministry, asking them questions why they allocated this and why this. Or even being given a chance to say, okay, fine, you want to reduce our resources, but we want you to reduce on this area because we have prioritized our activities and already planned on this sector. So I think there is need for a little bit of some closed door engagements when it comes to budget process and a conclusion on what resource is going to be allocated anyway. And finally, we want to attract our young people. But we also want to tell our young people, this idea of people saying, oh, make agriculture cool. Kwani kukula is not cool. We have to be serious. Sasa wewe unataka kufanya kuwa msafi daily and you do have no money in your pocket and you still want to eat. From where? This food comes from the soil, my friend. First, don't tell a story of making agriculture cool. If you want to be rich, if you have to have money in your pocket, make your hands dirty. Otherwise, ukitaka kuwa msafi, kuosha na omo na aerial na kung'ara daily, prepare kuwa na njaa na kuishi maisha ya umaskini. That is also the reality we also want to tell them. And I come, my friend, from a county where there's abundance of land. We have even put resources in programs like Kijana na Eka and so forth. Go and find out whether those young people are interested. We are telling them, my friend, kaa pale, insist tumesoma na utakaa na njaa. Accept what we are telling you. Sisi in Africa, let us be practical and let's live life practically. Hakuna industries Kenya hii sahi inakuwa, my friend. Let's engage in production. As soon as we have sufficient production, value addition comes. As soon as we do value addition, PS is here to get us straight the market. So let us not want to climb the tree from the top. Na hii maneno ya kupembelezana na nyinyi. Hakuna. Weka mikono ikuwe chafu kama unataka kuwa tajiri. Hata hizi biashara ya cool kwendeni na hiyo cool yenu. Asante. But meantime tutanulia ile tractor ndogo ndogo kama hiyo ni shida yenu ni kuinua jembe, ile two wheel tractor ya weeding na nini, we are engaged in those. But we want to remove from our minds this idea that you want to be pampered. Pampered what? Na unakula. Sasa unakula, you are not being pampered, my friend. Let's all of us work.
This will ensure full participation in regional and international standard setting and harmonization of strategies, and to facilitate compliance with set standards. In this new strategic plan, KFIS will strengthen partnerships with regional and international bodies for the benefits of our clients and our stakeholders. Ladies and gentlemen, in this strategic planning period. KEFIS will continue to ensure the quality of agro inputs, including seeds, fertilizers, water for irrigation suitability, soils and pesticide formulations. The corporation shall also put in place a research unit to work with other research agencies as a complement in the fight against introduction of harmful organisms into the country. Enhancement of surveillance activities and border control will also be ensured as a critical step towards protecting Kenya's agriculture and plant environment. The KEFIS has put forward strategies that will assist optimize the resource use and allocation for a sustainable corporation. KEFIS has projected an ambitious budget of 7.8 billion to be implemented in this during the implementation of this strategic plan for the period of 5 years. The corporation will finance this budget through internally generated funds, for we charge for our services, but also we charge the money you are going to make through agriculture and also through the support of the exchequer. So these are the nice flowers. Our flowers are very
Apple mango.
Apple mango.
Apple mango.
Which one?
Nutrients in the soil, and we will provide them. We have found in strange bad chemicals.
We are working with Makueni County. It's quite an expensive exercise, sir.
Bila kuwepo yeye nafikiri shughuli ya leo pengine ingetatizika kidogo, lakini tunashukuru pia na Dr. Esther Kimani ambaye ndiye meneja mkurugenzi ama ukipenda kwa lugha ya Kimombo. Also in our midst is the chief of staff from the office of Gatungu Kamau na vile vile Mheshimiwa Justus Gaita, wote hawa of the strategic plan 2017-2018. Will last or go all the way from 2021 to 2022.